Howdy gun people, survivalist preppers. I'm going to talk about a basic cleaning, handling, things to look for. A lot of ARs out there, AR-15s, M16s. This is commonly called a CAR. It's a shorter M16, AR-15, GAU-5, they used to call it in the military. It's got a sling on it so I can carry it here, put it into action. I want to put the sling over my head for center carry. It's hanging here. If I gotta go to my pistol jams, runs out, I can drop my pistol, pick it up, go to long range. These are kind of stretchy. It's called I forgot the technical term, single sling or something. I don't. We used to carry a different sling in the military. Dog handlers in the military used to carry these short little GAU-5s. So when I saw it for a pretty good price, I picked it up. It was under 500 bucks. So I went ahead and snagged it. It was pretty dirty. I cleaned it up. So I wanted to go over a few things that to look for when I go over a new gun or cleaning. Because this gun was in bad shape. There was a couple of things, a couple parts that I'm going to have to change. I replaced the rear retaining ring right there to this little piece goes right here. And if you buy the one with a little clip, it's got this side clip. It's got a clip on this side, and then you can hook your sling to it, or take your sling off if you need to get rid of the sling for some reason. So I'm going to take the sling off here just because I'm handling around here. So this one's a little bit fancier than the one I had in the military because it's got a little finger grip. It's got an aftermarket grip here. It's got a little pocket down here where I can carry some. Ours used to be hollow. The newer ones have a little pocket right here to where you can hide extra parts, an extra firing pin, the parts that break, springs. You put it in a little Ziploc bag and you slide it in there, and then if your gun ever fails out in the field and you can't get to repair, you have all the basic repairs. So you can search that online to see which one fails the most. I also added a little stock here. I didn't like this. Instead of buying a new expandable stock here, one that's nice, it's got a pad, I just got this little cheap pad here for 10 bucks that I just slide on. This is just straight plastic and metal, so I went ahead and just picked this up for 10 bucks. Not a big deal. M16 doesn't kick that much anyway, AR. When you're buying an AR-15 or you're looking for one thing that I really recommend for people is you want to get a 5.56 223. If you see right here in the white writing, I don't know if you can read that or not. Is that going to be readable? It should say 223 or 5.56. You always want to make sure and get a 5.56. And the reason for that is a 5.56 can shoot 223 ammo. If you get a 223, you can't shoot 5.56. There's little minute changes in it, and one has more pressure than the other. So the barrel, you want to get the barrel with that can handle the higher pressure. And the 5.56 will handle both. The 223 will only handle 223. Now, could you shoot a 5.56 and a 223? You know, I don't know. I don't know if you can or if it'll hurt it. Theory is you're not supposed to, or won't handle it, or it's not good for it. So by getting the 5.56, you're always you can shoot either ammo. So if you have a 223 or 5.56, you ain't got to worry about it. 223 goes on sale, you can buy it and still shoot it in a 5.56. Expandable stock, pretty generic. You can add those. These are standard on the little cars. This has a kind of an extra long, what's called a flash suppressor, light suppressor. These little flashes, instead of having a big flash when you fire your gun to give away your position, these little slots here will help disrupt that flash and pressure, and it kind of makes your flash less. Now they have better flash suppressors or ones that'll suppress it more, but they cost more, they're heavier. So this barrel actually stops about right here where the flash suppressor goes on. This is called carrying handle. This one has adjustable sights. Most ARs have adjustable sight right here on this little thing. This spins in and out. you use a bullet or a pin to get in there. Why, I'm not sure if this is picking this up or not, but I'm trying to see on the screen here. Sorry about that. So, and then another little advantage that I like about, I don't know if all like ARs have them now, but this right here is called your trigger guard, so you don't accidentally drop something in there and hit that trigger. So it guards your trigger, hence the name trigger guard. Well, there's a little pin in here, and if you press this pin in, this trigger guard flips down. And when this trigger flips down, what's that for is when you're working in cold. In Korea, we used to wear mittens because it got so cold out there. So we would leave this down because with a mitten, I can get my hand in here and still work the trigger with a mitten. If this is closed, I can't get my hand in here with a mitten, so I either have to cut a finger hole and freeze my finger off, or I got to wear finger gloves, or I have to be able to get something in here to shoot this. But with that open, you can wear mittens or thick gloves and not have to worry about the trigger guard. Now, obviously, you want it safe handling. If this is down, your trigger is more exposed. So if you're running through a bush, etc., a branch gets in there. If your gun's on fire, then it's going to fire off a round. So I'll put that little trigger guard back in place there. You just push a little detent pin there and it pops right in. So AR-15 card, M16, GAU-5, whatever you want to call them. I thought it was a good deal, but when I took it apart, there was a couple things that I found, so I wanted to go over those things to what to look for when you're cleaning or looking at these guns. Again, let me get back to the sights. This is your elevation sight, so it screws up or down. So you can either move the sight up or you can move the sight down. And then the back sight back here has a little wheel. This is an additional sight, so when I spin this, it moves this up or down. And then it has two little apertures here that's, hopefully you can see these, that flips down. And you notice there's a bigger hole there. So if I'm looking through the bigger hole, the big hole is for up close. You're going through brush, you're in thick brush, you're not shooting at distant targets. So this will give you a quicker target acquisition. You can get that center sight right in there real quick when it's bigger. When you flip this down, this little hole is a little bit more difficult to get that center sight right in the middle of that hole, which is for a long distance shot. Now, a lot of people will keep it with the big hole so they can just pick it up and shoot. I keep it with the little hole just because I like the little bit more accurate shot and I can pick it up. My eye's trained enough to where I can pick it up pretty quickly without it. And even if I don't pick it up, if I'm that close to a target, I'm not going to need to come up on target that quick. I mean, just pointing a gun, I'm pretty much going to hit you. So, am I going to use a sight if I'm that close? I can drop my head down and get my sight. Natural point of aim, when I come up here, I'm pretty much on target anyway. When I come up, I'm just guessing where the center of that lens is, but I'm not using my sight. But when I drop down to the sight, now I'm right on there. So I'm pretty close anyway, which is why I keep the longer distance target on here. Because if I see something at long distance, or somebody sniping at you, you got to get a long distance shot out there. You got a far target. You want to be able to come up and do that. I don't want to have to be worried about switching the sight, so I can get a long distance shot on a guy that's taking a long distance shot on me. So forward assist. Ours didn't have this a long time ago because it was that they found out in Vietnam that sometimes when the guns get dirty, your barrel doesn't always seat forward, and if it doesn't seat forward, you'd have to rejack around and let that inertia pull it. But if your gun's dirty, it doesn't slide as good. So this little piece right here just basically pushes that bolt. So if this bolts back a little bit and it doesn't seat all the way, by pushing this, it pushes it forward. So if your barrel doesn't seat all the way in forward, that's called a forward assist. It assists that to lock that lug nut in there, and then allows you to fire. Most ARs and M16s, they've got a safety and a fire. Ours in the military had another click to where you go fully automatic. Don't shoot fully automatic a lot because the gun barrel raise. I mean, it's good for spray and pray. It's good to make people duck down if you're leaving. But man, you burn up a lot of ammo and you're not real accurate. So I would prefer a 3-round burst. If I get a 3-round burst on here, I would like that better because 3 rounds will still keep you on target. You don't waste a lot of ammo. Every time you pull the trigger, it gives you 3 rounds. Brr, brr, brr. So I like 3-round bursts. But I see a lot of guns stored on safe. If your gun's on safe, that means your hammer is cocked. Because you can't put an AR on safe if you pull the trigger. So you notice how it's going to safe and fire? Well, when I pull this trigger on fire, now it won't go to safe. Why? Because the trigger isn't cocked. Well, I want it that way. So when I see people store their guns and they pull out their AR-15s, they're always on safe, and I'm like, that's not a good way to keep a gun. You don't want to ever keep a gun cocked to where when I do this, now I can put it on safe because I cocked the trigger, but now what I've done is my trigger is cocked, my hammer is back, and I'm putting tension on my hammer spring. That spring is what causes your barrel to fire. So when you start getting light hits or your spring doesn't work, it's because people keep their guns cocked all the time. Now, a 1911, a pistol, it's made to be cocked like that, but most guns are not made. You're weakening the spring by keeping them cocked. So I always make sure that I cannot put my gun on safe before I put a gun up, because then I know the trigger's not cocked. I always pull the trigger before I put my gun up to make sure that I don't have that hammer locked to the rear, because I don't want that lock there. Let me check my time here. Covering a lot of topics here. All right, I'm at 11 minutes. I'm all right. So, a couple things to look for. This right here is dust cover, pretty common. Most of them have it. You can get fancy little designs on here. Basically, you just close that when you're carrying a gun. It keeps the dust and dirt out of the barrel. So if I get in mud, if I walk through a dusty area, the sand's blowing, everything's going in here, it's going to keep it out of my barrel, because this barrel action right here is what fires, and the less stuff you have in there, the better. So if this is open all the time and this gets mud and dust in here and you fire around, now there's mud and dirt everywhere. So keeping this dust cover closed until you shoot is fine. Now a lot of people think, well, if I shut that, do I have to open it before I shoot it? No, because as soon as you pull the trigger, your gun's going to jack around, and when it does that, it automatically opens its own little spring. So you can shoot the gun with this closed. You just go bang, and it opens up and spits the round out, and you're ready to go. And then when you're done shooting, you can shut it back down and move on. So an operating dust cover is good. So let me pop this open real quick. Taking a pin out, and I can take the second pin out and remove it. This is called your up receiver, low receiver. Here's all your trigger mechanism. I was talking about that trigger being cocked. This gun, when it goes on safe, this hammer's back. When I squeeze this trigger now it's fired. But now the gun won't go on safe, and that's what I'm talking about. This spring right here is constantly under tension if it's cocked. I don't want to store my gun in a safe or somewhere for a long period of time like that. Now, obviously, if I'm in a hot zone or I'm in a critical incident or I'm using the gun, yeah, I'm going to have it cocked and I'm going to have a round in the chamber and it's going to be on safe. So as soon as I get in a situation, all I got to do is click my thumb down, put it on fire, and I'm ready. I'm in a gunfight. You know, it's like carrying a pistol without a round in the chamber. You've got to jack a round in the chamber to shoot it. Well, you don't want to have to do that in a crisis. So if you're in a situation where you're going to need your gun, you want to be able to have that gun ready to fire a bullet in the chamber. When the military first went to automatics, when I came in, we were carrying revolvers, and they transferred to automatics right a little time after that. They were scared to have a lot of people carrying around the chamber. Even though revolvers always had rounds in the chamber, there was this mental thing that, oh, these automatics are moving. They weren't as advanced. People weren't as comfortable with them. So there was a big issue between the branches on whether or not you would carry around the chamber. And I think the Marines and the Army, and I'm not sure about the Navy, but I know the Air Force was one of the only ones that said, no, we want our guys with a round in the chamber. So we were carrying rounds in the chamber. If you went to an Army base or a Marine base, they would have to jack a round in order to get a round in before they put their gun in play. I didn't like that. I thought it was stupid. I think they pretty much changed that now. I don't think there's any other branch doing that, but shit, the way they've got these stupid rules over in Iraq and everywhere, they can't shoot, they can't do anything. So I don't know if they let them carry rounds in a chamber or not. Sometimes M16s, people will say, I don't want a round in the chamber. You can have a magazine in there, but you don't chamber a round till you get in a situation. And that just prevents a gun accidentally going to safe. Again, over safety sometime. I think if you train somebody properly and they know how to use the gun, you don't have to worry about all this crap. Kind of like riding a horse. I crack on people about wear helmets. If you're confident with your horse and you understand your horse, you shouldn't have that fear to where I need a helmet. Same way if you're competent with your gun. If you're competent with your gun, there shouldn't be a problem with having a round in the chamber, because you know to keep your finger off the trigger and to keep it either on safe or don't put your finger in the trigger. I mean, that's pretty basic gun stuff. But so I'm going to pull out this bolt here, and this is basically your bolt. And this is your charging handle, and this comes out. So I mean, if I was going to clean this gun, I really cleaned these two parts. They were really bad. Cleaned in here. You can look straight down the barrel. I don't know if I can get this lined up to where you can see down that barrel or not. Yeah, I can't tell. Let me try to do it right side up. Yeah, there you go. You can see down the barrel down there. I don't know if it's showing how I've put some carbon, brushed it, polished it, so it's nice and shiny, and that's what you want your barrel to look like when you look down it. You want to put it in an area that's lit, that'll light, and then you can see down it. You're looking to make sure the grooves are clean. There's not a lot of carbon or dirt down there. So the barrel and everything was clean. I cleaned out the trigger, oiled this down, wiped it all down good. I took out my my buffer and spring back here, which is pretty easy to take out. There's a little bitty pin right here that you press down. Then your buffer and your spring comes out. So I cleaned down inside this tube, cleaned the spring, put that back in there, wiped all this down, oiled it. I actually pulled this completely off and oiled it. Oiled all my safety, my figure. So I wanted to speculate. Now what I saw when I pulled this off, and maybe somebody could put a comment if they've ever seen this before. I had never seen it. I'm going to replace this. But this is called your bolt lock or bolt release. So to lock the bolt for the rear, you push here. To let it go, you push on top. This has been cut or shaved right there. And I'm not sure why they did that. If you look straight down, right here, it's either broken or shaved. And I don't know if that was an issue when they had this gun or they were just shooting and they didn't know it. So I'm going to replace this. But it almost looks like somebody chiseled this out and filed that down, and I'm not sure why they did that. So if somebody knows and they want to put in a comment, that'd be cool. I'm going to go ahead and replace this because I don't like that somebody did some machining on this. And I haven't shot this yet to see if it works. Of course, that's my final thing. I want to take it apart, check all the pieces, clean it up. Then I'm going to go out and I'm going to shoot it and see how it functions, whether it takes a magazine smooth or the magazine drops, where it feeds good, etc. So that'll be my next step. But I want to make sure I had a good, clean operating gun, that I didn't notice any broken parts or anything, since it's a used gun. So let me get back to the bolt here. When I pulled this bolt out here, a big problem, this is your bolt that moves in and out, so that's got to be moving freely. This wasn't moving freely because it's so stinking dirty and clogged. I was pulling like this to get it out. I was pushing like that to get it in. And now, as you can tell, it comes in nice and easy because I've polished it out. I've cleaned it with oil, got all the soot off, got some good carbon dissolving crap in there and cleaned it out. But the problem is that people miss when they clean a bolt on an M16. I'm going to take out this firing pin, retaining pin. I might be using the wrong names. If you want the real specific names, I guess you can get them out there. Basically, I pull this out and I'll be able to take this little retaining pin. Then my firing pin will come out. So this is your firing pin. Of course, this was all black and corroded. I had to polish it down and clean it up because it got pretty trashy. So I wanted to make sure it wasn't cracked or marred or scratched up, so I replaced the firing pin. So I know the firing pin looks good. And then you take out this little bolt thing here, and there's probably films out here on how to take apart a bolt and do all that. This is another pin that comes out, and then your little bolt comes out. Actually, it's the bolt carrier. This might be your bolt. This is where the firing pin comes out. Again, I'm not all in specific names, but I wanted to get to a part that people neglect when they clean a gun, and this thing was trashed. On this group right here, if you notice, this is all kind of polished and shiny now. This thing was a 1/4 inch thick with carbon buildup, and this is what causes your gun not to fire, to misfire, to not eject around, to not, because when you fire a bullet, all that pressure is what causes this bolt in your action. It causes it to eject around. It causes all this reaction immediately when you pull this gun. And when this little piece right here is dirty and there's carbon in here and you can't see that it's nice and smooth, this is what causes you not to get enough gas, not enough pressure to reject. Then when you fire, your round doesn't come out and you have to manually eject it and shoot again. So it creates the gun from operating properly. So when you take your bolt out, a key part here, and you can even still see, it's smooth, but it looks like it's dirty, and I don't know if the light's going to pick it up here. Right around here, you can see. Now the other thing that people say is there's 3 little rings right here that I don't know if you can see. And these 3 little rings have little dashes in them. And there's a couple dashes right there if you can see them. I don't know if this is going to focus or whatever. Those 3 little rings, there's 3 rings and they've each got a little break. If you put all 3 breaks together, it creates a big gap. So you want them all different where the gaps are. So you don't ever want to have all 3. Now I've heard that the gun will malfunction if it does it. I've heard other people say it hasn't. I mean, I've always checked it and never had them lined up, so I don't know. I've never like tested to say, let me line them up and see if it affects the gun. So maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. But when you're putting apart a gun and taking it apart. And then this little piece right here has a little pin that needs to come out. And pretty dirty. And basically if you put a little pressure right here, and again I'm sure there's some videos on how to take apart these bolts, but you kind of put pressure there and then it allows me to push that pin out. See that pin coming out there? So I'm going to pull this pin out, and then it allows this piece to come out, and it's got a little spring right there that you don't want to lose, and it pretty much sticks on there pretty good. And then clean in here, because again this is where your firing pin goes through here, and these are the things that collect a lot of dirt. So I took all these apart and gave it a good cleaning, made sure there's nothing that was broken, made sure it looked right. Of course, you got to know what right is on whether or not you want to. If you don't know what right is, then you don't know whether it's broken or wrong. So this little sucker doesn't want to go in here right now. And if you get it lined up right, it should go right in. And because it's not, my phone's ringing inside. I don't know if you hear the duck quacking. There we go. So the pin went in there, put it back together, so now that's back together. My bolt's going to go back in here, and a lot of people want to get all into, when you're putting a bolt together, there's a little pin there, and it's got to be right at 5 o'clock or 7 o'clock. It's got to be right. This is the right way, this is the wrong way. There's a hole right here that this bolt has to fit through, and if you put it in the wrong way, it shouldn't fit. So this fit, if I try to put this in the other way, it's not going to fit. So it's got to go into this side. So if it goes into this side and is going in like this, then this little pin right here needs to be at the 5 or 7 o'clock. Let me see if I'm looking at a clock. This fly's about to irritate me. So I'm going to go ahead and stick this back in here. And I've oiled this all down, so it's pretty clean. All it needs now is for me to give it a good test firing. Stupid bolt. Again, it has to be right. Then you pull it out, spin it the right way. Slide your firing pin back in there, and then put your pin in. And now this little pin here, when you go in, a lot of people have problems because it's split, and you got to force it in this little hole here, and then it opens up to go out a little hole here. So what I normally do is I get the straight side. I just lost my firing pin. I get the straight side at the bottom, so then once I put it in halfway, I can push this down to get it in. So let me pick up my firing pin here, get it back in there. Then I'm going to slide this in there. Again, my flat side is on the bottom, so I got to squeeze it and kind of get it in there. It'll only go that far because this pin is in here. So now I need to just push that down a little bit with something, and it should go right in. And it's not. I'll try to spin it the other way and see if that'll work. And once you get these apart, kind of figure out what you're doing. You'll see why it won't go. Most gun parts will go with not a lot of pressure. You shouldn't be forcing a whole bunch. So I'm constantly putting pressure here while I'm pressing here to get this lined up. And this should just pop right in. which it isn't, because I'm on camera, and it knows this. Stupid bolt. Again, I'm going to try it the other way, see if that'll work. Ah, there we go. So now pushed all straight on in there. I want to make sure that's fully in, because this bolt has to slide, so if this is sticking out at all, that's not good. So I really want to make sure that that goes completely in. And again, I'm cleaning tubes. I'm just looking anywhere there's dirt. So I'm going to slide my charging handle back in here. Again, I'd normally do this on a table, so trying to hold this up so you guys can see. When this bolt goes in, if this is pushed back, it won't go in, so you always want to make sure and pull this little section out as far as it'll go before it slides in. Then it should flip right in there, slide right down, close it up, put your retaining pin in, and then do a function check. And a function check, again, on all guns, same way. You cock the hammer, you squeeze the trigger, it works. Cock it again, you squeeze it, and you hold back the trigger this time. So I'm holding down pressure right here. I'm going to recock it now. I should hear a click, which is called a trigger reset. I did. When I let go, I heard that click, and then it fires again. So now I know the gun's operating effectively. I'll cock it one more time, put it on safe, try to squeeze the trigger. I can't pull it, put it on fire, and it fires. So that's a function check to make sure my trigger mechanism is working properly. So that's basically what I do when I go over, when I buy a new gun. Oh, this ain't my gun, by the way. This is a neighbor's that I'm just working on. Yeah, that's it. Freaking government monitoring my shit. Wanting to tell me, oh, he's got a new AR. So that's a GAU-5 car, AR-15, M4, whatever you want to call them. There's minor differences. They're all basically the same thing. This is what all the scared little liberals call, ooh, it's an assault rifle. Ooh, it's going to hit me. It's a stinking gun. It's got a purpose. And if it was so bad, why is it that all police agencies carry them? Why is it our military carry them? If they're such a bad weapon and they only do evil, why does the government give it to everybody that works for them? Don't fall into that ploy about gun control crap. Let me check this thing here. 27 minutes. All right, I got to end this up here. So hopefully that helps on a just going over a new gun, kind of things to look for. A couple little things on this gun that I saw that I modified. I'm gonna change that bolt release or that bolt stop. Because I just don't like the way that's been tuned out. Maybe somebody's going to say, oh no, that's normal, somebody did that. The newer ones, because when I looked at the newer ones kind of have that same slant that looks like it's bored out. What I'm used to is it's completely flat. So I don't know why they've kind of cut some of that out, but I guess we'll see. So, got any questions on these? Feel free to answer me a question. I'm not going to put a sight on this. This is going to be my car gun. I'm just going to have this under my back seat of my car. Like I said, I paid under $500 for it, so if it gets broken in and stolen, it's not the end of the world. But it'll be hidden in my car. And this will be my little car gun. And it's also called a car. Or a GAU-5. Alright, we'll end that there. I hope that helps. Bye to you, Mr. T. You're good boys.